You know, I'm probably the last person on the planet to read this, but who cares? Hello, every pony. My name is Rob Royale, and welcome back to another fanfiction reading. This one is Vinyl and Octavia University Days by DawnFade on fanfiction.net. A really well-done story that deserves another reading. It deserves all the publicity it's gotten because it is really well done. It is 22 chapters if you want to read along for yourself. Link is in the description. If you don't have time to read along, then you've come to one of the right places to listen. There are probably better ones, though. Alright. This is Chapter 1 and possibly Chapter 2. Yeah, probably both chapters are going to be read in this fic. I'll figure that out after I post. Anyway, let's get started. Chapter 1. The West Manhattan University grounds were impeccable, to say the least. Perched atop a huge plateau of grassland just outside the city proper, it was a marvel of engineering and art. The most obvious features were the Pegasus lecture theaters and labs that floated above the rest of the campus, the large bushy court in the center, dotted with trees and a small stream, and from what the rest of the university radiated outwards along two main paths that intersected in the middle, and of course the vast array of abstract art pieces littered at seemingly random places through the court. It was the beginning of a new year, and all the first years were nervously shuffling about and glancing at maps, occasionally gathering the courage to ask for directions. All the first years, that is, except for two. The first was an earth pony with fur like pale ash and a straight mane of charcoal. Around her neck was a pink bow tie attached to a white collar. It was the only piece of clothing she wore, but it was really all she needed to wear. Every single step she took was precise and official, and despite her comparative youth, she gave off the sense that she was much more sophisticated than any pony else there. That's not to say she was conceited. On the contrary, she was exceedingly polite and friendly to all who dared speak with her. She directed other first-years to their rooms, having already memorized the entire campus guide herself, and helped others feel more at ease in the atmosphere that was so vastly different from the high school many of them had recently graduated from, herself included. Her name was Octavia, and she was a cellist studying musical theory, classical, history, and strangely enough, psychology. The second pony was a white-furred unicorn, with an electric blue mane that spoke of 1,000 parties gone by and 1,000,000 to come. Covering her eyes were a pair of dark purple shades that hid everything and revealed nothing. She walked confidently, but carelessly, nodding to a beat that no pony else could hear. Those who approached her received a grin and a hoof bump. Those who didn't could only watch in admiration as she dominated the area around her without even saying a word. That's not to say she was controlling. On the contrary, she was extremely relaxed and easygoing whenever some pony spoke with her. She exchanged passing comments regarding bands and artists with other music enthusiasts who spotted her six-hoof bands, but never stayed for long. A high school dropout, she was here on a lucky music scholarship, and knew what she was talking about when it came to electric tunes. Her name was Vinyl, and she was a DJ studying musical theory, modern, drawing, and strangely enough, psychology. They met for the first time outside of a lecture theater, brushing shoulders as they left. Neither said a word, and they forgot about each other completely within minutes. A more lasting impression was made outside a tutorial room as they waited for a tutor to arrive. 23 ponies, including them, were also gathered in somewhat awkward silence. Determined not to simply be part of the crowd, Octavia turned to face the pony nearest her, which just so happened to be Vinyl. "Hello, I'm Octavia. A pleasure to meet you," she said pleasantly, extending a hoof. Rather than shake it, the white unicorn slugged it and flashed a smile. "Sup, name's Vinyl Scratch. You've probably heard of me." Gingerly putting her aching hoof back down, Octavia shook her head. "No, I'm afraid I haven't." "Does DJ Pone 3 ring a bell?" Her eyebrows bounced as if to jog the cellist's memory. "No." "You need to hit some clubs then. My music guarantees a good time." "In my experience, hitting some clubs is rather synonymous with positive emotions and experiences." The DJ cocked her head curiously. "Why do you talk like that? It sounds kind of silly." Octavia frowned as she replied, "Talk like what? This is how I normally speak." Snorting back a laugh at her expression, Vinyl slowly realized she wasn't being fooled. "Oh, wow. So you were born in Canterlot or something?" "No, I was born in Manhattan. Though thank you for the compliment." She preened happily at being mistaken for a Canterlot citizen. "Uh-huh, no worries." The DJ realized they clearly had different opinions on what being from Canterlot meant. Thankfully, she was rescued by a sudden arrival of their tutor. He was a tall stallion with frizzy red hair and orange fur. Each step he took seemed to bounce off the ground, and his tail swished non-stop with boundless energy. Every iota of his being screamed, "Let's get ready to learn." The ponies shuffled inside and took their seats at 3 large tables arranged in an abstract manner. Octavia smartly sat next to her new acquaintance and pulled out her notepad and pen, while Vinyl sighed and dumped her saddlebag on the desk. "All right, folks, let's get the introductions out of the way. My name is Psych." "Yeah, I know. What were my parents thinking?" He laughed alone. "Still, it turns out they had some incredible foresight, because this is a psychology course, and I'm your tutor. How crazy is that?" He laughed again, and still no pony joined in, not even the slightest bit put off. He continued, "You're a quiet bunch, aren't you? Don't worry, I'll soon fix that. Let's do a bit of a game to get to know each other." Finally, an audience reaction. Every pony groaned at the same time. Octavia rolled her eyes at their immaturity and decided to opine on the subject. "Honestly, what did any of you expect? This is the first week of the course." Psych shrugged. "She has a point, you know. This is pretty standard." "Doesn't mean we have to like it," grumbled Vinyl, to the murmured assent of surrounding ponies. "Oh, I'm sure you'll like it just fine." However, he gestured to Octavia and the DJ. "I saw you two talking on the way in, so I'm afraid I'm going to need you to move. There's no point in doing a friend-making activity with some pony who is already your friend after all." As the cellist started to interject with the fact that they had only just met, Vinyl quickly floated her bags across to an empty desk on the other side of the room. "So long, Octavia." "My name is Octavia." "Whatever." The unicorn trotted to her new place. Psych observed the exchange with great interest and a small smile. Shaking his head, he once again brought attention back to himself. "I want you all to talk to the pony next to you and learn as much as you can. Then in 10 minutes you will introduce them to the class." The activity ended up taking a lot longer than 10 minutes, as Psych had too much fun listening to all the different conversations. Finally, he stopped them and began the introductions. Most were fairly accurate, with the main issue being mispronunciation of names. This is, Vinyl Hatch," a small male said nervously. "Scratch! Vinyl Scratch! Get it right!" hollered the DJ. "I'm sorry," she squeaked. "This is Vinyl Scratch, and she makes electronic music and performs in clubs sometimes." Psych stomped the ground in appreciation. "Great work, Lilycup." A general rumble of praise emanated from the class, and the anxious pony sank down in her chair gratefully. "Now then, Octavia, how about you introduce your hopeful new friend there?" "As you wish." The gray mare stood up straight. "This is Bonbon. She enjoys making various kinds of confectionery treats. She is taking this psychology course to help learn how to attract more ponies to her store, such as what colors are more likely to attract attention and whatnot." "Excellent job, Octavia. Very succinct." The mare smiled at the praise and she sat back down. "Bonbon, would you kindly introduce Octavia to us?" With a dark blue mane and pink highlights, Bonbon looked like a stereotypical university student, the kind that would be on advertisements explaining the values of pursuing an education. "This is Octavia. She's studying musical theory and history and plays the violin," she said hopefully. "Cello, actually. Oh, sorry." Vinyl piped up from across the room. "Hang on, I'm doing musical theory too, and I haven't seen you at the lecture or the toots." "Why in Equestria are you doing musical theory?" the refined pony replied incredulously. "I'm a DJ. Didn't you hear little Miss Shyface over here?" "Being a DJ hardly requires extensive education." "The buck did you just say?" The tutor reluctantly stepped in. "Easy, you two. I know for a fact that there are 2 musical theory classes, one classical and the other modern. There's no need to start arguing. I'm sure you have something in common, considering both of you are musically orientated." "Yeah, we both like modern music. Oh, whoops. You like classical, don't you, Octavia? Shame. How does it feel knowing a monkey could be trained to play your cello? I saw it at a circus once." The DJ stuck out her tongue. "Modern? All that clanging and thumping is more akin to a primitive pony slapping rocks and sticks. You have more in common with a monkey than with me, you ape." Clearly offended, the dark-maned pony wasn't going to just take that insult to her music. Vinyl stood up so quickly that her chair fell over. "What did you call me, snob?" Rising as well, Octavia held her ground. "I called you an ape." "At least an ape knows how to loosen up, prude." "Oh, yes, you would know all about being loose, rather hussy." A chorus of gasps accompanied the DJ's jaw-dropping in surprise, but she quickly recovered and narrowed her eyes before stepping closer to the cellist. "All you do is rub strings with a stick, and you call me primitive? I make music with sounds you can't even comprehend, let alone enjoy." Octavia's face scrunched up into a scowl, and she stepped ever closer. What kind of charlatan are you? It takes skill to make music. Vinyl also moved towards the target of her anger, violently squashing the absurd urge to laugh that she always got when some pony yelled at her. It had made encounters with her high school principals tense, to say the least. "Are you calling me fake?" she said dangerously. The sight of the proud gray pony swallowing before replying was satisfying. Clearly, the DJ was still able to intimidate skillfully. "I'm not calling you fake, but I'm saying that your music is fake. Doesn't take even half the skill that playing the cello does." To make up for the lost ground, she took another step forward and brought herself face to face with the furious unicorn. With her cheeks flushed from shouting and her nose crinkled in distaste, Octavia looked more than a bit amusing. Vinyl opened her mouth to say as much when the tutor finally stepped in, clearly thinking she was about to go for her throat. "All right, ladies, let's dial it down a notch. As much as I love having two complete opposites arguing in my class, and believe me, I love it, I feel the need to stop this before it goes too far." Now that the tension was broken, the two mayors looked around and noticed they had captured the rapt attention of the entire class. Vinyl chuckled awkwardly and scratched the back of her head as she returned to her seat, while Octavia merely adjusted her mane and gracefully rejoined her table. Taking back control of his room, Psyche clapped his hooves together. "Right. That was a fantastic demonstration of conflicting personalities. I hope you all were taking notes." The ponies scrambled to write down anything they could remember. "This presents a very unique opportunity for our class. Real-life studies go a lot further than textbooks, you know." He paused for a moment to collect his thoughts, glancing at the clock on the wall. "Well, we don't have time to get into anything right now, but I have an idea for next week." As Pony started packing up, he outlined his master plan. "Octavia, I want you and Vinyl to spend time together on the weekend." "What?" they shouted in unison, making the rest of the class crack up.
"You want me to spend time with her?"
exclaimed Octavia. "Yeah, I was planning to have fun on the weekend," Vinyl added, earning a glare from across the room. "Because," Psyche explained patiently, "this is a great opportunity to study how a relationship can change over time. For better or worse, we'll compare our notes from today with your behavior on Monday, then draw conclusions and make predictions based on the data. In fact, I may get you two to hang out together rather frequently so we can have more data points. This isn't strictly on set coursework, but I think this will be a fun little side project." "Take psychology, they said. The teacher's nice, they said," muttered Vinyl, violently shoving her notebag into her saddlebag. The tutor chuckled. "I'm sure it won't be that bad. Who knows, you might actually find some common ground." "I highly doubt that." Octavia latched her bags and lifted them onto her back. "What do you suggest we do, then?" Psyche shrugged. "Go to a bar, go watch a movie, walk around town. As long as you're together, it shouldn't matter." "Drinking it is!" declared the DJ.
"Alcohol will either make you normal or intolerable. I'm willing to take the risk,"
muttered the cellist as she followed the other ponies out of the room. "But I choose where we go," she called over her shoulder. Vinyl sighed and trod after her. As they walked into the boiling sun and started climbing up the hill into the main court, she forced herself to walk next to Octavia. "All right, let's get one thing clear. I'm going to give you my number, but under no circumstances are you to text or call me unless it's about our plans. Capiche?" A pen and paper surrounded by white floated in front of her and began scribbling.
"Agreed. The same goes for my number as well."
The unicorn tore off some of the paper and slipped it into the gray mare's bag. She simultaneously held out the pen and pad. They stopped for a few seconds as she could write, managing some impressive calligraphy considering the pen was held in her mouth, then kept walking when she finished.
"Very well. Try not to hand it out to any friends of ill repute by accident."
"Whatever. I'll call you sometime tomorrow and we'll go from there, yeah?"
"Try to make it at a reasonable hour, would you? Not all of us are used to staying up until 4 in the morning on a cocktail of alcohol and caffeine."
"Shove it in your flank, Octavia." With that, the pair parted ways on the grassy court, the cellist to her next class and the DJ to her home. They didn't know it yet, but their lives were already changing to the tune of conflict and inexorable approaching, something that neither of them had ever dreamed of. Chapter 2. Unknown Number.
"Yo, it's Vinyl. How we gonna do this?"
Octavia sighed and reluctantly added the number to her contacts, having forgotten to do so the day before.
"Pistols at dawn."
The cellist smirked at her own joke.
"Name a bar and a time, smartass."
Rolling her eyes, she replied quickly,
"Blues Tavern. 7 p.m.
And so, as the Manhattan bell rang for the 7th time, Octavia found herself sitting in a corner booth watching the unicorn she despised approach wearing an equally disgusted expression behind her dark purple shades. The sounds of a lively bar wafted around them, but the two mares were cold to the happiness of others. Both were expecting nothing more than a few hours of tiring arguments that gradually grew less intelligible as the drinks piled up. But of course, nothing turns out the way we expect. "So," said Vinyl, as she sat on the opposite side of the booth, putting the table between them. The situation was more than a bit awkward, so she defaulted to her typical conversation starter. "What's up?" "Absolutely nothing of concern to you," was the short reply. Rolling her eyes behind her glasses, the DJ floated an untouched drink over from a table with a stallion passed out on it. "Drink this. Maybe it'll help you pull that stick out of your flank." Octavia shook her head and didn't touch it. "I have yet to reach the legal drinking age." "You're joking, right? How did you get in here?" "They didn't ask. I didn't tell. Besides," she folded her hooves, "you can't be much older than me. We both came to university straight from high school, yes?" "Actually, I kinda dropped out a year early." Vinyl seemed oddly reluctant to reveal that information. That makes sense," smirked the cellist. "Hey, I didn't insult you when you refused a drink because you're underage, which is incredibly lame, by the way. So why don't you try to be less of a snob in return?" "Very well," she conceded. "How did you get into university if you didn't complete the last year of high school then?" "I spent all of last year doing this scholarship program thingy. I don't regret dropping out, but I knew I had to do something else or I would just become one of those ponies who waste their lives living off welfare." Octavia raised an eyebrow. Why did you drop out in the first place, if you knew it could jeopardize your future?" Shifting uncomfortably, Vinyl looked away. "It was just stuff, okay? Let's talk about something else." "Alright then." "So, when's your birthday?" "In a couple weeks." "Cool." Indeed. An awkward silence arose like a brick wall between them. DJs were made to smash awkward silences. "This is such a stupid homework assignment," muttered Vinyl. To her surprise, Octavia giggled in agreement. "Hey, I didn't know you could laugh." "Oh, how funny. I'm not as boring as you seem to think." "Oh yeah?" Vinyl grinned. "Prove it. Take the drink." No, I can't." "Go on. Don't be such a... you." "Vinyl, I'm not joking around." The DJ sighed. "Of course you aren't. Fine, be antisocial. See how much I care." Octavia gave her a flat look. "I find it a bit silly that you seem to think I can't be social without alcohol." "In your case, damn straight." Vinyl eyed the drink mournfully and floated it back over to the other table. She turned back to see Octavia looking at her questioningly. "What?" "Why didn't you drink it? You're old enough." "It's not fun drinking alone. Trust me." "Don't abstain on my account. I was hoping your sanity would be linked with your blood alcohol level." "I'm not that crazy." "Am I?" The unicorn seemed so surprisingly unguarded that Octavia decided to respond truthfully. "No, I suppose you're not. I admit I made many assumptions about you based on our rather heated discussion in class. Not many of them were positive." She hesitated for a second before continuing. "But since we seem to be mending bridges, I must ask, am I truly a boring pony? Be honest." "Not really. At least not anymore. If nothing else, you're at least fun to argue with," grinned Vinyl. The cellist returned, chuckling a little. "And what an argument it was." "That loose comeback was brutal, but awesome." "Thank you. I like how you use the fact that your music is more technologically advanced to nullify my comment about how primitive it was." "I have no idea how I did that." The two mares laughed, the tension finally broken and replaced by a much more comfortable atmosphere. "Hey, if it's alright with you, can we pretend we had an awful time tonight?" asked Vinyl, leaning back in her seat to get comfortable. "Why?" "I kinda don't want Syke to think he was right when he said we wouldn't be that bad. He just strikes me as the kind of guy to say, 'I told you so,' you know?" "I must agree with you there. Very well.
During class, we shall bicker as if nothing has changed. Agreed?
Agreed. And what about outside of class?
A faint blush graced Vinyl's cheeks.
'Cause I don't really know any pony else yet, and it would be cool to have some pony to chill with.
Octavia smiled warmly. Then I'm glad Psyche isn't here right now, because that's another thing we have in common.
What about all your high school friends? Didn't any of them come to university?
It was the gray mare's turn to shift uncomfortably. No, was all she said.
Oh, that sucks. So, do you live on campus?
Yes, in the student village. And yourself?
Nah, I got a crappy apartment not far from here.
It must be annoying having to travel to university every time you have a class.
Yeah, I've only done it for 1 week and I'm sick of it.
Well? Octavia asked expectantly.
Well, what?
Replied the confused DJ. What are you going to do about it? Her companion shrugged.
I don't know. I could try to get a place closer to uni, but I'm pretty sure they've all been taken.
The answer seems obvious to me. Just get a campus flat like I did. Vinyl scratched her chin.
You think I should?
Definitely. In fact, I think if you got in contact with whoever is paying your scholarship, they could probably help you find the best option.
Really? I'll call him tomorrow, she laughed. You give some good advice, Octavia.
The cellist laughed. It seems reading thousands of university pamphlets has finally paid off.
You must have been pretty damn excited for it.
What can I say? I'd imagined it for so long. Every single class and pony I would meet, all the friends I would have, and how every pony would be nice and respectful because it's a grown-up environment. Silly stuff like that.
Nice and respectful, eh? I guess I kinda ruined your first week then, huh?
With a chuckle, Octavia shook her head. Don't worry, you've made up for it already.
I have? All we've done is sit here and chat.
Vinyl frowned. Yes, well, I'll tell you another time. It's boring anyway. The cellist brushed a few strands of dark hair out of her eyes and looked away.
I'm seriously doubting my idea of what boring means. So why not tell me?
It's sort of personal.
Oh.
A brief pause followed, yet it was understanding rather than awkward.
It's alright, you don't have to tell me if you don't want to.
No, you should probably hear it. I can't just say something like that then not explain.
You sure?
Yes. She took a deep breath. Before uni, before our class, I was quite lonely.
Every pony gets lonely once in a while.
I don't think you understand the unprecedented level of loneliness I was experiencing.
Okay, so why were you lonely? A mare like you must have tons of high-class friends to hang with.
Octavia reddened and turned her eyes down. Not really.
Oh.
Vinyl wasn't sure what to say in the wake of that revelation. After a few moments, Octavia continued quietly. I didn't have tons of friends, or just a small amount of friends, or any friends at all. Her eyes remained lowered in embarrassment.
That's...
The DJ fumbled for the right thing to say. Yes? Sucking in a breath. The gray mare rubbed her face with her hooves as if to scrub away the last few seconds. Sorry, she forced a laugh. That was completely out of place to say. I wish I hadn't said anything now.
No, it's fine. Not the no friends part, I mean...
Please, just forget it. Let's talk about something else.
Alright.
Vinyl looked thoughtfully for a moment before continuing.
Well, you shared something personal, so I should as well. That way you won't have to worry about me backstabbing you and telling every pony.
A small, sincere smile graced the cellist's lips. Thank you.
You might not be saying that when I'm done.
She took a moment to gather her thoughts.
Okay, this is a little pathetic, but I wasn't that great at school. I sorta... failed. Everything. And that's why I took it so badly when you made fun of how I'm a dropout.
The unicorn leaned on the table and rested her chin on her hooves.
I spent every year trying so hard to do well, but I got nowhere. I was like the class idiot in every class. The only thing that kept me going was my music.
Her eyes were hidden behind tinted glasses, but the rest of her body lit up suddenly, bursting with life.
I couldn't analyze text or solve equations, but when I got behind the mixing table, no pony could keep up with me. I was the god of my music class, and every bass wobble was my gospel.
She grinned and raised her head from the table.
I played everywhere I could as for long as I could. The other fillies and colts could have their test scores and good grades.
All I wanted, all I needed was my music. Octavia held back a chuckle at the DJ's enthusiasm. She too felt the warmth of music in an otherwise cold world. But she held her tongue, for the story was not now over. But the smile slipped away from Final. No pony else thought the same thing. I needed a good report card to go on to study music at uni, and that just wasn't going to happen. At the end of the year, they told me they needed to keep me down a grade because I wasn't passing anything except music. My only other choice was to drop out and find my own way into uni. So I did. Reaching across the table, Octavia touched the DJ's hoof with her own. Thank you for telling me. Considering I've been nothing but rude to you since we met, I'm surprised you trusted me with all of that. Like I said, it's your insurance against me ever telling any pony what you told me, or... Yeah, trust sounds a lot better. But my story wasn't even a story, just a sad little fact. There's so much more to you than I imagined. Her stare was so intense that Vinyl blushed and looked away. Well, thanks. The cellist realized how she was behaving and retreated back to her side of the table, also blushing. Please excuse that. I was caught up in your story. It's fine, really. Totally fine. Nevertheless, it was inappropriate, and I'm sorry. Vinyl grinned at that. We're in a corner booth of a bar. This place has seen way worse stuff than just touching hooves. What? The mortified expression worn by Octavia as she took a second look at the seats and the table made the DJ laugh harder. Relax, this place gets cleaned every night. Probably. Vinyl liked watching her squirm in discomfort. Still, I think it's time for me to head back to campus. I can't risk messing up my sleeping pattern. She slipped off the chair and gingerly put her hooves on the ground. Aww, whined the DJ before she could think. The cellist gave her an amused smirk. I didn't realize you were enjoying my company so much. Let's pretend I didn't do that. So, I'll see you Monday then? Definitely, Octavia hesitated, biting her lip in contemplation, but did nothing and simply trotted away. Vinyl watched her go, even going so far as to half climb onto the table to see the dark mane vanish out the door. When it did so, she sunk back down in her chair. Definitely, she muttered.
And that was chapters 1 and 2 of Final Octavia University Days by DawnFade on FimFiction.net. Leave a like or comment below. I appreciate any feedback. Also go check out the other Vinyl and Octavia University Days readings. Go check out the story for yourself and check out the other works DawnFade has done. He is a very good writer. I apologize if I'm saying he. I am now realizing this. It might be a she. I never know. So just go check out DawnFade. That brony is an awesome writer. I apologize, I made this mistake last time with my little background pony. Okay, well, till then, till the next video, I hope you enjoyed listening, and I hope you enjoy the next video to come. Stay brony, everybody.